Hello. Some of you probably know the YouTuber Oliveira, and at least a percentage that do know of him. You probably dislike him. Out of any big YouTubers on the platform, he's the one person that makes you feel like he very heavily harps on clickbait and also rage bait. Because you have videos saying this is the country where they kill disabled people, where they kill immigrants, all that crazy shit that when you actually get into it, it's nowhere near as that exaggerated when he actually covers the story. But the main reason I'm covering it right now is because people on Twitter they were ripping him apart for a video he just put out called "I investigated George Floyd's murder in quotation marks," and the thumbnail, fentanyl overdose with a question mark. Normally, I'm never the kind of person to be like, I always say, don't judge a book by its cover, because, an hour-long video, surely you make some good points. But of course, I sympathize with people, seeing this shit and being like, what an awful video, fuck this guy. So, I got into it, I watched the video, I pulled up his channel, and I will admit, I watched the whole thing, an hour-long whole thing, and unfortunately, Oliveira did not cope with this. I really want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Was this the one time when he made a good video and it wasn't pure clickbait? I know I sat down, I'll give my whole opinion at the end, but in the first 5 minutes, he talks to people in Minneapolis, that were there for the riot, and most of them said yeah, it was pretty crazy, unjustified, and way too violent, with all the looting and burning places down. And then past that, he does rapid interviews with 5 people saying asking them, do you feel like George Floyd's death was unfortunate? And most of them say yeah, it was pretty sad. But he really focuses on one guy that looks like Hulk Hogan with the mustache, and he just says, nah man, it was fentanyl, he took drugs, it was all his fault, he died because of an overdose. And to be fair to Tyler, he doesn't agree with him right then and there, but in the video he shows fucking B-roll footage of the exact stuff he's talking about, showing the evidence, more so indirectly supporting him, showing all the stuff he's talking about.
It's all a joke.
It's all a joke?
Yep.
In what sense?
He overdosed.
He overdosed on the fentanyl? Do you think the police was accountable for his death?
No.
Yeah. No? Think so?
Yes and no, because they mistreated him, but in the backseat,
restrained him, but they had to put their feet in there.
In the backseat of their car, they found pills that he ingested. So obviously he overdosed. I read the toxicology report.
So that was a very quick red flag of what is his heading. And then he proves how George Floyd, before he was killed, he was he robbed a pregnant woman, he's a drug dealer, all that stuff, which objectively is not very good at all. But I think you make a point how this guy is a scumbag, not a good person, and maybe on one side doesn't deserve this picture of a martyr, of a holy victim, a holy saint. But on the other hand, I think he's more of a message to most people of injustice in America.
What are your thoughts on this garden?
I think it's good for the, for the neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it makes the transportation a little difficult.
Do you think it's questionable to memorialize a criminal, a guy who robbed a pregnant woman and was a drug dealer? Is that a questionable guy to make the guy?
That part right there, I feel like a grifter being all these libtards, they're so fucking dumb, can't even support their own argument. But then ironically, at the 90-minute mark, this USPS mailman that he interviews fucking mocks him so hard. Because Tyler asks him don't you think it's important to bring up how he had drugs in his system, and that could have led to a hard complication that could have then killed him more so than the officer kneeling on his throat. And the guy says, what does it matter? If I'm kneeling on your throat for 9 minutes straight, or around 9 minutes, I don't think it will make a difference what you have in your system. And then he makes the better point that he wasn't the perfect victim, but sometimes, believe it or not, you should call out something fucked up done to a person, even if they're not a saint themselves, which is very true.
So George Floyd, though, you mentioned asking the hard questions. So there was meth and fentanyl in his system. The police officers...
Oh my God, I don't want to hear about that.
Why not? You don't think that'd be a contributing cause to his death?
So a cop is a jury, a judge, executioner,
no, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is, were there any other factors that led to his death? Heart disease, and then the question is...
standing on your neck for 9 or 13 minutes, would I ask you, what had you had for lunch?
Well, that's not my point.
Would it matter? He was not a Girl Scout. I am so sorry he wasn't the perfect
No, I get your
martyr.
point. Yeah. He said he wasn't breathing before
No,
he was even
should have
touched,
gotten
right?
up in a suit and tie and said, "Please don't do that to me. I think you're violating my rights."
All I'm saying is if there's other underlying causes that would have contributed to his death, and we pin it on a broken police system or systemic racism or he's fundamentally broken.
Racism doesn't exist, right?
That's not my point.
Well,
Of course it does.
Let's look at the victim. Let's blame the victim. You know, police don't have any control over their guns or their guns. Oh, hey, I gotta go.
No, all right, great conversation. See ya.
The one part I'll give respect to Tyler for a tiny bit is that, you know, he doesn't normally put effort in. Like in this video, he goes to Minneapolis and he interviews Liz Collins, like the journalist that covered the story over there in Minneapolis, you know, since when it started, the trials, the investigation, the whole riots, from the very beginning, she was there. And as well, and also talking to Bob Kroll, at the time, the president of the police union over there. But my main issue with that part, the whole video actually, is that he really detracts from, you know, the actual incident of George Floyd, of when he died, to like the crazy stuff that happened after. And like that becomes an issue because then it feels like he's trying to bring up good points that, you know, you can agree with to slowly lure you into his argument, to his question, and, you know, be on his side. Like, yeah, objectively, I can agree. All the people in the riots, looting stores, burning down shops, saying crazy shit like abolish the police, that stuff is dumb. When it comes to your actual question of, you know, was he murdered unrightfully, then it doesn't really show much, you know, to actually, you know, get me to be on his side. In fact, I'm compelled to say that his video is 20% talking about like the circumstances of the event around the beginning and most of the end, but in the 80%, it's all the crazy stuff that's, you know, insane, but a tiny bit like, you know, unrelated. Unrelated as in, what did the riots have to do with George Floyd being handled right then and there on that date? For example, one thing he brings up over and over throughout the entire video is the body cam footage, and he focuses on the part where you can see like, apparently what he says, fent in his mouth, which to me, it looks more like a fallen tooth, but whatever. And he said, you know, like that was clear evidence that, you know, he was on fent right then and there, and that led to his death, more so than the way the officers were handling him. And I really feel like he knows the question where, well, if they knew he was on drugs or he was clearly on it, then shouldn't that be more reason to like not treat the guy so harshly if, you know, if the risk of him something bad happening, like suffocating, is way higher if he's on drugs, or if that likelihood is possible. So that fent part doesn't really make sense. The next part he focused on also doesn't really make sense. This part I watched over and over at the end, and I don't really feel like I get the full picture, so take a pinch of salt. But it brings up like how the officers, they could have used a hobble, like a piece of rope to restrain him, but they rightfully didn't, because when they called an ambulance, it should have arrived in 3 minutes, but it didn't. It got there in 8 minutes. So because they were waiting for it, they didn't pull out the hobble. But even then, if they see like the ambulance taking longer than 3 minutes, shouldn't be more reason to know to pull out the thing if they know it's gonna take longer, or if it won't get there on time. Especially if they know it's not going to restrict someone like that in a forceful way for longer than 3 minutes. And also how they didn't use the hobble until they felt like the area was a code 4. You know, a safe area, you know, in police code, and it wasn't safe enough because people around there were yelling at them for kneeling on his throat. I feel like does that really make the area unsafe, you know, to put out a tool to actually, you know, restrict someone properly? Especially if the arrest is taking longer than usual, and the main thing you're hoping for, the ambulance, is also, you know, taking a bit of time. So honestly, after watching the whole thing, Tyler Oliveira did not sway me on his opinion on the question on whether or not was George Floyd, you know, murdered. I still think, believe it or not, you know, he was unrightfully killed, or bare minimum, a version of manslaughter. You know, like more so than what Tyler wanted, of making it seem like it was a death that was unfortunate and completely out of the hands of the police officers. So I think if you saw this thumbnail, which he did change by the way later, like if you see it right now, it's way less, you know, rage baity. But again, the actual the way, there's still like a feeling of clickbait, being like, George Floyd's murder, was he really murdered, was a bunch of bullshit. So there's one time, people that saw the thumbnail and potentially watched the whole video, I can see why they would be pissed off. Me personally, okay, I'm gonna get your story for a second. I'm done with the George Floyd stuff. I've been pissed off at Tyler for a long time. Because one of the worst dramas, which might be worse than this, the George Floyd video, was when we did like the Alabama video and interviewed the Whittakers. Which, by the way, if you don't know them, they're inbred, by the way, completely inbred. And the main reason why they're known online is like an interview they did with Software Underbelly, which interviews like weird people all over America. And he feels so bad for them in the situation that guy of the channel, he set up a charity for them, like a GoFundMe, to buy them a better house. But when Oliveira went there and interviewed them, the lady said that the charity's going nowhere and that guy, suffer underbelly, he's actually taking the money from the charity and spending on himself, giving nothing to them, to the actual family.
How's the house coming along?
What house?
I
don't know what house. What you have to Mark about the house?
What did Mark say about the house? Paige wants to get an update.
I don't know.
Okay. Do you think he's...
Mark told we ain't got no more money in there. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, no one told us.
From my understanding, there's like, I don't know, $50,000 or $60,000 in there. Has Mark given you guys an update?
No.
Which, by the way, that lady, the sister of the house, she's like half senile. And I say that because when you're taking a testimony from a lady that's, almost mad, almost insane, then you should, take a pinch of salt. But no, Tyler listened to her, and he painted the story of, that guy being a scumbag, stealing money from his family, from charity. And of course, when that erupted, he made a video being like, fuck you, that never happened. The reason why the charities never reached the goal is because I have to take money out, because that family is asking for the money, which is rightfully theirs, because the whole thing was set up for them. So even though it was set up to buy a nice house, he explained how it was frequently she calls them being like, oh, can I have some money to buy some groceries or repair the car? And if that's happening on a frequent basis, of course it's never going to reach the goal. But at the same time, that charity is made for them. It's their money. They can spend it however they want. But either way, because of the backlash, he shut down the charity and now they didn't have a GoFundMe anymore. I think someone else, made a different one. But either way, the main one with the most attention was just gone. Simply because Tyler wanted to rush a story of this guy, this YouTuber, scamming this family for his own self-gain. When in reality, he didn't even take the time to ask the guy quickly on Twitter, being like, hey, is this really the case? Not even vetting the story at all, getting it out there quickly for the sake of drama. So he ended up doing more damage to the family than the guy he was slandering. And again, in his channel, his actual channel, there was a sparse bit of value or quality in his videos. But again, most of them, I feel like you shouldn't use clickbait as much, because in this drama of the George Floyd video, he's rightfully, in my opinion, being shat on. Because not only does it look bad, the title and the thumbnail, but also the actual video, not so good. So I think people are shitting on him, yeah, it's justified.